Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are cracking open the investigator's playbook, identifying and remedying title defects. We're going to treat real estate title defects exactly like what they are, a true mystery. If you've ever stared at property records and just felt completely lost, well, you're not alone. Let's put on our detective hats and figure out how to actually decode them together.
There's an old saying in real estate law that I absolutely love. Clouds on title are not solved by yelling fraud. Today, we're busting some massive internet myths. Look, you cannot fix a title problem with highly emotional language or by filing some fake, pseudo-legal affidavit you printed off a random internet forum at 2 in the morning. Real estate law doesn't care about the drama, it requires cold, hard facts.
So, right at the center of our mystery is what's called a cloud on title. Basically, this is anything that casts a shadow of doubt on the ownership of a property. It's a claim, an encumbrance, or a defect that's going to make buyers, title companies, or lenders seriously hesitate. But look, don't panic. A cloud just means there is an unresolved issue. If we can systematically trace its legal effect, we can find the remedy. Your job isn't to freak out. Your job is to identify the cloud.
And that brings us to a really crucial crossroads. Fake law versus real law. Fake law thrives on panic, right? It uses emotional language and throws around random documents that sound super legal but actually mean absolutely nothing. Real law, on the other hand, is a disciplined investigation. It relies on identifying actual source documents, checking statutory deadlines, and finding true recognized legal remedies based on state law.
So, with all that noise and misinformation out there, how do we investigate a title defect the right way? How do we step away from the absolute chaos of internet mythology and actually fix a broken property record? Well, to do that, we need a framework.
Enter our ultimate tool, the 7-step title defect identification framework. Think of this as your official interrogation manual. First, you pinpoint the exact property, then the specific defect. Next, locate the source document and identify the affected interest, like ownership or possession. Finally, you figure out the governing state law, gather your exact evidence, and pinpoint your specific remedy. Boom, 7 steps.
All right, let's bring in our first suspect, unreleased liens. Now, an unreleased lien happens when an old mortgage, a judgment, or maybe a tax lien was actually paid off or expired, but because no official release or satisfaction was ever recorded, the public record still shows it as totally active. And let me tell you, this can bring a property sale to an absolute screeching halt.
You can't just assume a lien is fake or invalid just because you know it was paid. You've got to interrogate it. What specific type of lien are we looking at? Did it officially expire? Was a satisfaction ever actually recorded in the public record? And hey, if the lien holder is stubbornly refusing to release it, what exactly is our legal remedy under state law?
Let's look at a practical example. Imagine a homeowner diligently pays off their mortgage back in 2016. 10 years later, they go to sell the house, but the title search flags that old mortgage is active simply because the final paperwork wasn't officially recorded. That paid-off loan is now a serious cloud. It requires a proactive cure, like a quiet title action or a formal curative request. It is absolutely not going to just magically disappear on its own. Moving right along to our next suspect, we have the incorrect legal description. In the world of real estate, a street address simply isn't enough to cut it. Property disputes turn on exact legal boundaries, meets and bounds, plat references, and lot numbers. An incorrect legal description means the deed might not legally transfer the property you thought you actually bought. When you're faced with this kind of mess, you have to ask the right questions. Does the description match the prior deed or the tax records? Was a crucial exhibit just completely left off the paperwork? Once you actually find the error, you need to check if state law allows for a simple corrective deed or a scrivener's affidavit to fix it, or if you're going to need a much more complex court reformation action.
Let's ground this with a real scenario. Say you buy a property, fully intending to purchase Lot 21, but because of a simple, careless typo, the recorded deed says you own Lot 12. You now have a massive cloud on your title, and that requires immediate correction before you can ever sell or finance that property. You literally don't own what you think you own.
Okay, now let's dive into missing assignments. This is easily one of the most abused areas in all of internet fake law culture. An assignment is really just a transfer of acclaimed interests, like a mortgage or a deed of trust, from one party to another. So a missing assignment simply means there is a gap in that public chain of record.
And here is where so many people get it completely wrong. A missing assignment does not automatically mean a free house. I'll say it again. A gap in the paperwork does not mean a foreclosure is void, or that your debt just magically disappears into thin air.
The legal effect is highly dependent on state law, and crucially, who actually possesses the physical note.
So instead of jumping online and claiming a free house, use the discipline of real law. Was the assignment recorded? Was recording even strictly required for enforcement in that specific state? Who actually holds the physical note? And legally speaking, does the borrower even have the standing to challenge that assignment gap in the first place? You have to analyze the actual facts, not the mythology.
All right, our fourth suspect is the forged or questionable signature. An unauthorized signature on a deed, a power of attorney, or a release can completely invalidate a transfer. It creates a major serious title defect that very often requires heavy-duty legal intervention to cancel the invalid instrument.
But here is a much-needed reality check. You cannot casually cry forgery just because someone's handwriting looks slightly different on a Tuesday. Broad, sweeping accusations of robo-signing aren't nearly enough to clear a title. Real law demands actual, undeniable evidence.
You've got to systematically analyze the claim. Was the signer legally competent on the actual date of signing? Did the notary do their job properly and by the book? Do we have a sworn denial from the alleged signer, or maybe even expert handwriting analysis to back this up?
Our final common suspect today is the probate gap. This happens all the time, and it requires a really careful analytical approach. A probate gap occurs when a property owner dies, and the public record just stops. It doesn't clearly show how the title legally passed to the heirs. So, a family member might physically live in the house, but they completely lack the legal authority to sell it or refinance it.
To solve this specific mystery, we have to trace the legal path after death by asking targeted questions. What was the exact date of death? Was there a will officially admitted to probate? Was an executor actually appointed by a court? If someone signed a deed transferring that property, did they actually possess the legal authority to do so?
For example, if a deed still names a grandmother who passed away 10 years ago, her grandson cannot just go stick a for sale sign in the front yard and sign the closing papers. Being an heir doesn't automatically grant you the authority to sign a deed. Title transfer after death must follow the proper legal path, and that usually means officially opening probate or initiating a quiet title action.
As we bring our investigation to a close here, we start to see a very clear pattern. Every single specific defect has a legally recognized remedy when you actually apply our 7-step framework. You don't just yell fraud. Got an unreleased lien? You seek a satisfaction. Incorrect description? File a corrective deed. Missing assignment? Find a curative assignment. Forgery? Bring a quiet title action or cancellation. The remedy is strictly dictated by the defect itself.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Are you ready to ditch the fake law mythology and use the real, disciplined approach of actual law to clear your title? Look, the next time you encounter a cloud, don't panic, and definitely don't fall for internet rumors. Identify the property, pinpoint the defect, find the source document, select the right remedy. Because that, my friends, is the true discipline of property law. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.